Imagine this, a young man in his late 20s or early 30s, out of shape, still living in his mother's basement, eating junk food, playing video games, and working a dead-end job for decades. This image was treated as comic relief in popular culture. The punchline was simple. What self-respecting adult would live like this? He's lazy, unmotivated, a loser, and so audiences laughed at him to feel better about themselves. But what was once a joke 25 years ago has, in many places, become reality. A scene from the 1990s sitcom, Get a Life, captures this caricature perfectly.
Let me just say this as precisely as I possibly can.
Okay.
You're 30 years old. You still live with your parents. You're losing your hair. And you're stupid. Yeah, I think that just about covers it.
But today, it hits differently. Back then, a 30-year-old living with his parents was considered pathetic. Today, it's normal. In the US, 55% between 18 and 30 still live at home. In Australia, the number is nearly the same. What used to be a punchline has become mainstream. Women, by contrast, are more likely to move out earlier, to graduate from college, and to find stable footing in life. This raises an uncomfortable question. Why are so many young men falling behind?
It wasn't so long ago that men enjoyed a clear advantage in American society. But these days, a different story is emerging. Men and boys falling behind.
Boys are not simply falling behind relative to girls, but they're falling behind in absolute terms from prior generations of boys.
If a group is falling behind in society, we don't tell them to pick themselves up by their bootstraps. We spend billions of money in taxpayer-funded charities and think tanks to try and work out what's going on and to try and bring them along for the ride. That's not happening with men.
They don't have steady careers, a spouse, a home with a picket fence, or kids filling the house with noise. Many try to replicate the path their parents took, but it simply doesn't fit anymore. Somewhere along the line, they feel like they slipped, telling themselves they got complacent or made mistakes. But the deeper question remains, is this really their fault? Or the failure of the system itself?
But it's now clear that there are many boys and men who've fallen behind, and that we have to be able to think about gender inequality in both directions. One thing that makes that hard is that the changes have been so quick, so rapid, that it's hard to update our beliefs to match the new facts. It's a bit like the needles on a compass swinging round. Suddenly north is south and south is north. It's really quite disorienting. But it's clear that, on some measures at least, now men are lagging quite a way behind, not least on college campuses. That reflects the fact that boys are trailing girls throughout the education system. 2/3 of the top academic performers in high school, measured by GPA, are girls. And 2/3 of those at the bottom are boys. And it's not just in the US. If we look at the 20 most economically advanced countries in the world, there's on average a 13 percentage point gap in the share of young men and young women with a college degree, with young women much more likely to have a college degree. And in some nations, the gap is much bigger.
Just last year, Wall Street Journal article titled, "America's Young Men Are Falling Even Further Behind." Journalist Rachel Wolf profiled a family of 6, the Morenos. On the surface, they seemed like any ordinary family. Their daughter had just finished business school and gotten engaged. But her 3 brothers, now adults, were still living at home in their childhood bedrooms. When asked about it, their father admitted, "Something isn't right here. We love them. We love having them around, but this isn't how you build a life." When asked if he felt the same concern, one of the sons, Daniel, admitted, "I just felt completely lost. Nothing is really holding me back. It's just me standing in my own way." For him, much of the struggle was tied to COVID. A 2021 survey by the Survey Center on American Life found that only 26% of men reported having 6 or more close friends compared to 55% in 1990. Meanwhile, 17% of men in 2021 said they had no close friends at all, up sharply from just 3.4% in 1990. Women, by contrast, generally put more effort into maintaining friendships, which helps explain why their social circles tend to be stronger. While COVID certainly caused many men, including Daniel, to drift apart from their peers, it doesn't explain the whole picture. The pandemic didn't make every man fall behind, nor in the same way. In the US, The share of men aged 25 to 34 still living with their parents has nearly doubled since the 1980s. Rising housing costs are an obvious factor, making multi-generational living more common and less stigmatized. But beneath all that, something deeper is happening. Across the last 3 to 5 years, a clear trend has emerged. Industries historically dominated by men, such as manufacturing, are in decline, while service-based sectors are booming globally. The challenge is that men aren't typically trained or encouraged to thrive in these areas, leaving young men at a statistical disadvantage. On top of that, fields once dominated by men are now more open to women, a positive shift overall, but one that also brings added competition for men.
And women looking for a job or even a career are discovering there is a whole new world out there.
As it turns out, roles traditionally filled by men now being offered to women. Here's 3 on Your Side's Gary Harper.
This iron worker has made a successful career for herself.
I love physical work.
You may find Adrienne Donato 30 feet above the ground, welding and using a handheld jackhammer. She even worked for the same company through 2 pregnancies.
They were very supportive.
Iron workers are just one of many fields now trying to recruit women. The industry just announced the new paid maternity benefits.
They're going to make good money, but they're going to have great benefits to go along with it. So they'll have that health insurance and a pension plan.
The dating landscape has shifted dramatically for young men. For many in Gen Z, the idea of traditional dating feels increasingly out of reach. In the US, for instance, only a small percentage of men reached age 40 unmarried during the 1970s and 80s. By 2021, that number had surged to 28%. As young men struggle to find stability or success, they often come across as less appealing to women, fueling the common refrain that it's hard to find a good man. Some women have even chosen to step away from dating entirely. Cultural changes have also played a role. According to the Washington Post, the Me Too movement of the mid-2010s left many men hesitant to approach women in person, fearing they might be seen as threatening.
We're going to talk about the consistent phenomenon of men not approaching women when they're out, when they're at the coffee place, when they're at the workplace. It's, I guess, just a plague upon society that is impacting young women right now who want to be approached and who want a little bit of attention to be paid to them. In the age group of 18 to 25, for young men, around 50% of them say they have never approached a woman, not once, not ever. Now, when asked why they can't find this drive to do so, most of them are expressing that they don't want to be seen as a creep or be accused of sexual harassment in the wake of this whole Me Too movement thing that's happened.
That said, I've come across plenty of stories about how young men are conducting themselves, and it's clear they're often not doing themselves any favors.
I have only gone from the boy meets girl to hell level destruction. This guy at the gas station comes up to me. He is smoking a cigarette, blows the smoke in my face, and says, "I really want to hang out with you tonight." I said, oh.
Like most issues, there are 2 sides to this story. With dating increasingly funneled into apps, many men turned there in hopes of finding companionship, but the odds haven't been kind. Women often receive thousands of matches, while men can spend days swiping without getting a single response. Adding yet another layer to this pile of challenges is the growing political divide between the genders. Gen Z men are trending more conservative, while Gen Z women lean increasingly liberal. The outcome is a quiet but persistent gender rift, leaving more young men single than ever. And even for those who seem to be doing well, living independently, married, or starting families, many of the same struggles still linger. As Richard Reeves puts it, the sense a lot of young men have is not being sure that they're needed or that they're going to be needed by their families, by their communities, by society. Both young men and women today are grappling with the challenge of finding a deeper sense of meaning. Many feel their sense of purpose slipping away. Around 2016, conversations about young men losing direction began to surface more widely in the West. This was perhaps most evident in the puzzlement over why figures like Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan suddenly gained such popularity among young men about a decade ago. These online figures stepped into a gap that had long been ignored, serving as role models for young men. Whether people approved or not, the digital spaces they built offered guidance to those feeling adrift in a world shifting faster than they could keep up. The discussion gained a more academic dimension in 2022, when Richard Reeves released his book Of Boys and Men. In it, he uncovered disparities so striking that even he had to double-check his research to believe them. Around the same time, another voice entered the conversation, author Scott Galloway. His focus leaned more toward higher education, career opportunities, and adult relationships. During a podcast with Chris Williamson, the statistics he laid out painted a striking picture.
I have friends who have 2 daughters and a son, and I'm saying this metaphorically, but loosely speaking, the daughters at Penn, the younger daughters working at a PR firm in Chicago, and the son is in their basement vaping and playing video games. Young men, 7 to 10 high school valedictorians are girls. For every 1 male college graduate over the next 5 years, there's going to be 2 female college graduates. 93% of mass shooters are men, 3 times more likely to overdose, 4 times more likely to commit suicide, 12 times more likely to be incarcerated. They do worse in single-parent households. For some reason, girls have the same outcomes in a dual-parent household versus a single. We have more single-parent households. Our education system is biased against men. Men on a behavior-adjusted or boys on a behavior-adjusted basis are twice as likely to get suspended for the same infraction as a girl. 2/3 to 80% of all primary and secondary teachers are women, and understandably, they're going to champion little girls who they see themselves in.